Artists have a way of relating with each other without having to talk a lot. We can sort of just work together and write each other's updrafts, and we discover a lot of things about ourselves. And we actually are a lot friendlier with each other than most people think. We're only competitive when it comes to business, not for creativity itself. I love working with people. I find I learn more from the students than I teach. It's amazing how much, if you work with enough people, that they eventually pull out of you what's good for you at the same time. Mm-hmm. That sense of discovery that you can share with somebody and get them to that point where they open up a little bit, then it rekindles the same feeling that you have even on a daily basis. I go through that every time when I go up to the canvas. And one of the things that I kind of enjoy with students is that, again, they're more on the mental level at that point. Otherwise, they'd be just out doing it. But what happens is they go up to a canvas, and it's sort of like this, like a white page if you're a writer, or a white canvas if you're a painter, and you go, well, where do I start this? How do I get going? And most people are okay once they get going. So I used to say, well, just get a little bit of paint on your brush and stand like that about half a foot from the canvas. So they'd do that, and I'd go over and I'd hit their arm, and I said, well, now start there. And then they were okay after that. You know? It was sometimes that simple to get people going. You know? Teaching is basically just a matter of letting somebody find out they can do it, you know, is what it amounts to. And you find ways for them to do it. And that's what teaching is about. It's not so much telling them what you do, it's just find ways for them to do it. And once they discover they can do it, they go, wow, you know. And it doesn't matter whether it's great. I mean, that comes in time anyway. You know? Techniques can be learned, and confidence is something that you have to kind of dig away at. I remember in Montreal, I used to stand in front of an art gallery, and there was a portrait artist that did some really beautiful pieces, and I used to stand in awe and just watch him doing these portraits. And he sort of watched me every once in a while, and finally he called me in and talked to me, and he just handed me a key, and he said, here's the key to my studio up on some street in Montreal. I forget the name of the street now. And he said, go and lock the door and go on in and just paint and enjoy yourself. And I thought, wow, and I didn't even know him, but he must have felt something. So I went up and I painted a picture, and it was must have been to do with passion, because it was of a fire, like a campfire. And I left it on the easel when I left and gave it to him. Oh. That was actually the first painting I painted. My claim to fame is having Madame Benoit's old television studio, The French Cook. And that was my first real studio I had. It was like a dungeon, and it was so dark I could hardly see anything, and I was painting all these depressed paintings. When you're real young, you have certain feelings in you that you necessarily don't know how to get out yet. And what it is, there's sort of a shyness and a sort of an introverted stage. And a lot of artists never come out of that introverted stage. They stay there, and they live their whole life full of one form of angst or another within not so much a juvenile mind. It can be a very adult mind, but it's clouded. Like they haven't been able to come out of themselves and realize that the world can really help them, you know. People can help them. And basically what we're dealing with is love, and love for ourselves and love for our fellow man. And I just discovered at some point earlier, after I'd gone through all this angst and painting all the abstract paintings and all the ugly paintings and getting everything out that I had to get out, that why beat myself up anymore? That's not really what it was about. But I didn't do it overnight. It was sort of a gradual kind of process where I just arrived up at the surface. And it's still very difficult for me to be an extrovert in a sense, because I'm still a painter and I'm still the quiet individual. But this romance that I portray in my work now is really a sincere feeling of where I am in my own time and how I see things. I think style comes about through miles of canvas, years of work, and it's kind of like character. As you develop and learn more for yourself and know more about yourself, you develop more of your own character. And your style basically is a way of telling your own story. Art, for me, was a lifesaver. It was something that either I went up and became into the art business, or I went down and just ceased to exist, you know. So it was a soul calling, and I went into it very lightly and very delicately and kind of wandered through for a while. But it was years later, somebody said, what are you? And I said, I'm an artist. I'm basically a dropout of 4 different institutions. I did some fine art at the University of Montreal, and went to Vancouver School of Art and a few other different organizations. But basically it's working it and painting it and learning just through the doing of it and experiencing it.